Hey, I'm Eugene and I build and rank websites. So let's have a chat about blogging. You've got a website, do you even blog? I mean, what's the point of blogging? Let's reset a little bit. We're talking about websites, we're talking about growing in Google. We want our website to show up above everybody else's, whatever your niche is. If you're in accounting, medical, weddings, any niche. At the end of the day, the way I see a blog, it's a supporting piece of content. So in other words, we want to prove to Google that we are trustworthy and that we're an authority in the space, whatever the space is. Another way to explain it is, if we want to rank higher on Google, we must gain trust with Google, because there might be 50 websites in your space. If you're an accountant in a suburb, or you're going to have 50 other accountants going up against you. So you need to gain trust with Google. Trust is gained a number of ways. In very simple terms, trust is gained by proving to Google that you're an authority in the space by having lots of good quality text on your topics. Another way to get trust with Google is being mentioned from other websites. But why would another website mention you, 1 month into your website's history? So if you registered a website, no one knows who you are, no one knows where you are, why would another website mention you? We'll park that to the side a little bit. So essentially, blogging is an excuse to put lots of text on your website that proves to Google that you're an authority in the space. If I zoom out again just one more time, the way a website progresses in Google and ranks high and overtakes other websites is by gaining trust with Google and proving that you're an authority in the space. Now that's done by showing Google a lot of amazing content that people are reacting to. So if you put a guide on, how to choose a wedding dress, or 50 tips on tax deductions, or how to set up an SMSF or a benefit of an SMSF, whatever your topic is, and people spend time on that page and read through it and it delivers value, Google will notice that. Your website will begin raising the ranks. There's a lot more that goes into that, but essentially high quality content and more of it will help you. So an example might be you and I are registering a website. It's about audio systems. So we've registered a domain, Eugene's Music Store. We want to sell headphones. We want to install home theater systems and stuff like that. So we've created our page. We've created our service pages. And then we've said, hey, Google, check out my site. Will Google show us anywhere? Probably not, because there's hundreds of websites that are already in the space that have been there for many years. They have hundreds of pages. They already have thousands of visitors each month. Why would Google start considering our site? So every website goes through what's called a trust period. It's like a sandbox, a Google sandbox. It goes from anything from 3 months to could be a year if you don't prove yourself. And essentially, Google looks at things as you're guilty until you've proven yourself innocent, because there's a lot of dodgy websites out there. And let's face it, if there's already 10 websites at the top of Google that are delivering a great experience that people are buying from, they're spending time on, why would Google choose another website? So we need to be doing something that makes them choose us. So everything starts from planning out your content that you're going to write about. Now, you don't need to be the writer. I've got something like 13 content writers that are working full time creating the stuff right now. We've deployed maybe about 1,000 websites already. Each of those websites, especially the ones that are an SEO campaign, some of them have got 300 guides or blogs that are deployed within the first couple of months. Now, that is to shock Google with high quality content. So if we go back to our website on audio systems, we want to sell headphones. I'm going to put 10, 15, 20 blogs on, best headphones under $50, or most comfortable headphones, best wireless headphones. I'm just going to sort of talk about them or review them. If you're in that space, if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, you have so much knowledge that you can share on, how to choose some headphones, for example. If you're a tax accountant, you can give some seriously awesome advice to someone that is just starting out with their business or starting out with saving money. So you're sort of already an authority in the space. We just need to prove ourselves to Google. So once again, just to recap, this blog isn't just, hey, a status update of what I did on my weekend, and hey, we had a wedding here and this is what we did. No one's going to click on that. No one's going to view it. Blogging is, in other words, what I call a piece of supporting content. The more of that supporting content we have on the site, the more it's clear to Google what your website is about. So the World Wide Web, the internet, is filled with what I call niche neighborhoods or content clusters. There's a medical niche, there's a finance niche, there's a local business niche, there's a casino, gambling. There's a lot of them, and each one Google treats a little bit differently. So the more content, give me a sec. My SEO dog Stella, who was a pain, who's asked me to re-record this a number of times, wants to get up on a seat. Little shit. Niche neighborhoods. So essentially, you want to make it clear to Google that, hey, you're a local business in Melbourne and you're in the accounting space. You want to really, really make it clear. At the end of the day, Google is a robot. That robot scans your website, looks for words, it tries to interpret those words, it looks at the images, it looks at the description of the images, it looks at where that image was taken. So you might have longitude, latitude coordinates in there. I don't want to dive into the 200 ranking factors. I want to stick to content, because the more content on a certain topic that you have that's also high quality, the more a trustworthy asset you are, and a more of an authority in the space that you are. And that's the reason a lot of my websites, the first 6 months of the campaign, are just shocked with almost millions of words of text. It's to build that trust with Google before the rest of the SEO, which happens every month anyway, which is me acquiring links and mentions from other websites. So another way to paint that story is we show Google high quality content, and then we acquire backlinks from other websites, and there's many strategies to do that. And from Google's point of view, it looks like, this high quality piece of content has gone up. People are spending time on it, means they're getting value from it. And then other websites on the internet are mentioning it. That is natural. That's gonna help you rank. So I'm gonna share a couple of pointers these days. You don't want to be doing 400 word blogs anymore. They need to be, the way I do it is 3,000 words. I want it to be an outlier, because there's so many 400-500 word blogs out there. Even 1,000 word blogs, it's just not enough. Maybe 10 years ago that stuff worked, but if you put together, if you're a jewelry store and how do I choose a wedding ring, or how do I choose a wedding band, or just those tips, that stuff already exists. It's not going to show up anywhere. If you're gonna sit down and create a piece of content, this better be the outlier of all content. Like if I'm doing a directory, you got like 10 wedding decorators or 10 photographers and stuff like that, I'm just going to go out and do 100. That's it. Or it's going to be, instead of 5 boxing tips on how to choose your boxing gloves, I'm just going to do like 50. And essentially this is content for Google's eyes mostly. If once it gets traffic, I usually go in and sculpt it and put some call to actions and stuff like that. But essentially it's to please the Google crawler. It's to please the robot that's judging my website. So we climb the ranks and we gain trust and authority. I'm going to now share my screen and give some tips on where to even begin. Probably a warning here. If you've got a Wix, if you've got a Weebly or a Squarespace website, look, It won't hurt creating blogs, but if the goal is to rank, if you want to climb the ranks, unfortunately those websites are much harder to rank than a WordPress website. And I've got a separate video explaining this. So if you're in a low competitive niche, for example, my dad's a heart surgeon, I built him a Wix website, he popped to the first page pretty quickly because it's not that competitive. Whereas if you're a wedding photographer, you got to get off Squarespace, you got to get off Weebly, you just need to bite the bullet and have someone, or you create a WordPress website. So in other words, don't continue watching this if you have any of those. I mean, will it help having a blog? Absolutely. If you put a 3,000 word blog on a Wix website, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, I'm sorry, and that blog matures, when you do come over to WordPress and bring that blog across, then that's where you'll receive the benefit. Anyway, I'm going to share my screen and just show you some tips. Thank you. Okay, so I'm back. I'm sharing my screen. Let's recap a little bit. So while we're blogging, we want to build trust with Google. This is for Google's eyes. We want to prove to Google that we are trustworthy in this space by showing lots of text. This way we build authority in the space. So when Google compares our website to another website, we deliver a better experience via text and the factors. Once this text matures and your website matures, this might take years, it might take 6-7 months. You generally will begin to get organic traffic from Google. You'll generally rank higher. So it's just a very safe way to progress online on the internet. So it also helps Google categorize your website and place you in a niche neighborhood for accountants, for medical, so that way it knows who to compare you to. So that way, that we can rank. Where it all starts from understanding what your keywords are. So for example, I just did this yesterday for a jewelry store. They do engagement rings, they do wedding rings, wedding bands, rings for ladies, men's rings, that kind of stuff. So they're your terms. Now, I just named 10 keywords. The simplest thing that you can do is, instead of just sitting down and wondering, great, what do I write about? Go and do some research. I mean, you already know your stuff. If you're running a business in the jewelry space, you can already give some awesome tips yourself. You might talk about how to keep your, how to clean a diamond. How do you clean your wedding band, for example. So that's what I mean by keyword research. Then there's a couple of combinations where you type in your keyword and you type in ideas. So type in wedding ring ideas. You'll get thousands of blogs that'll just pop up. I've actually got a system in place that goes and finds the best blogs, and essentially I have writers that are in place to, I mean, you can almost rewrite the text. They get ideas, they do the research, and they put a fresh piece of content together. If you type in the word wedding ring ideas, wedding ring tips, wedding ring advice, or just jewelry tips, you'll get unlimited variations of content. My suggestion is, sure, if you've got something that you want to write about, the only thing I'll suggest is make sure that piece that you want to write about gets traffic. So put your keyword into like a Google Ads keyword plan. It'll tell you, hey, how many people are typing in how to clean a wedding ring. Or for example, another way to do it is wedding ring. At the bottom, I'm just going to zoom in. At the bottom of the page, you generally have searches related to wedding ring. Here we go. Wedding rings Melbourne, wedding prods finger, cheap wedding rings. Now if we do wedding ring tips, you're going to get the ridiculous amount of blogs on this content. Down here, engagement ring shopping etiquette. There you go. Things to consider when buying a wedding ring. So Google is actually giving you suggestions on what else people are typing in. That means there's traffic to those pages. That means if you create a high quality piece of content answering those questions, that's great. Google will start considering you a more trustworthy asset. You're more of an authority in the space. Eventually you'll get traffic to that space. They potentially could be your clients. Engagement ring advice. If I click into that, what have we got down here? Once again, the complete buying guide. Great. Go into that, have a look what they're doing. Have a look at those 10 shopping tips. How to choose an engagement ring. There's an unlimited amount of content, and a lot of the time they're just literally copying each other. There's only a certain amount of ways you can explain, what a plumbing website does, or what a general GP does, or a wedding DJ. It's all more or less the same sort of content, just sort of reworded. It's all to please Google. Engagement ring, shopping etiquette, timeless engagement rings. So the rabbit hole is endless, and you can quickly, just from the term engagement ring advice, you can probably create 10 blogs quite easily. On my website at the top, I've placed a guide, blogging page, checklist. This will probably evolve. All I did here is I just placed a bit of a checklist of what your blog should have. So identify your keywords. We just discussed that. So making sure A, those keywords will get traffic, and B, that your piece of content that you're putting up is delivering value to somebody. So for example, if the blog is, on the weekend I did this, and this, and we visited this, and this, that doesn't really drive value to Google or anyone visiting that page. It's more of an update. That's different. That's not a blog, right? Well, it is, I guess, but from my perspective, we want an SEO benefit. We want whatever we're doing to help our website climb the ranks. Does this blog topic get traffic? Yep. It needs to be. Look, it doesn't need to be, but this is how I do it. All of my blogs are 3,000 words of text and up. They take a while to make. I've got dedicated writers in place, not just writers, content researchers, content editors. So there's a whole team that are creating this high quality content. Now you want to include your keyword in the URL. So for example, we're talking about wedding jewelry, wedding rings just before. Wedding ring is that keyword. How to choose a wedding ring, or how to clean a wedding ring. So you want to have the keyword in the URL. The URL is the actual address of the site. You want to include the keyword in the H1. The H1 is the main title, and I've got an example here. So this is an example of a blog. There's the H1, and you want to have how to clean a wedding ring. Bang, there it is. Then you also want to include the keyword in the main title tag. So title tag is this blue text that shows up on Google. Now I knew it. Frank was going to start up his bike during my video. Frank's a good bloke, but he's got a very loud bike. You probably can hear it. Let's just roll with it. So this is the title tag. So you want to have how to clean a wedding ring as your title tag. Then you've got keyword in the meta description. The meta description is this text under the title tag. So you definitely want to have how to clean a wedding ring. We discussed blah, blah, blah. So you really want to make it clear what this piece of content is about. Google is just an algorithm. It's a robot. So if we're ticking off these boxes, there's a high chance that your blog post will eventually start to climb the ranks. I mean, we might not beat the likes of Brides, that's a big website, but we might start showing up somewhere, getting a little bit of traffic, getting Google to notice us. Google will notice that people are spending time on that page, and your whole website will just grow in trust and authority. You want to optimize the H2s and H3s not just optimize them, but you want to have them every 300 or 500 words. So what I mean by that is just have titles. So here's a good explanation of how titles work. I've got a separate video and a separate guide for that. But H1 is at the top. We can only have one. We should only ever have one. H2 is essentially supporting a heading to support the H1. So if this is, wedding and events venue, this should be, memorable wedding receptions, and then memorable conference center or something like that. So in other words, all the pieces of all the headings should be consistent and align and support the overall topic of this page. So it's like a hierarchy. You also want to have an image every 500 words. Google doesn't like walls of text. Once again, while this is pleasing Google, it's also not nice to look at a wall of text without an image or without a heading. It just people don't read. Thanks, Frank. Optimize images. This is big. Your images need to be compressed. If they're too big, your site will slow down. Slow sites increase the bounce rate. People bounce off. Not good. You want to have the your keyword in the file name. So the description of the image is, whatever it is that you do, and the alt text. The alt text is additional section where you describe what the image is. Is he done? Nope. He's off. Okay. Alt text is essentially helping blind people read websites. So they get a screen reader, and Google judges your website a little bit by the lack of alt text. Not a big deal, but it's something that I do. Include internal links. Now this is super important. So for example, here we go. I've got this piece of text, and this is a link to an internal page about Melbourne SEO services. Now if I click on that just takes me to my home page. So essentially I'm sending the Google crawler to my home page, and I'm telling Google what I want this page to rank for. So in other words, I'd love for my home page to rank for Melbourne SEO services. Sorry, in fact, I wouldn't. I'm overloaded, so that's the last thing I want. But back on topic, you want to have an internal link taking you to a page that you want to rank. So if I was hypothetically wanting to rank my homepage for Melbourne SEO services, this is going to send the Google crawler to that page. You also want to have an external link to another website. My suggestion is send that link to an authority website. So for example, if you're an accountant, you might link out to the ATO or MyGov or Small Business Ombudsman or any other Chamber of Commerce, for example. Something where if Google looks at this and sees, right, he's linking out to an accounting or accountants daily or the tax office, for example, and he's linking into another page about tax law or tax services, it makes it really clear to Google what neighborhood to put your website in. And if you have hundreds of pages like this that are linking out to other websites in your space, not necessarily competitors, because this essentially sends a little bit of SEO juice their way, so it helps them rank. It creates a natural ecosystem, I guess, it helps other websites, and it's easy for Google to understand what your website is about. I'm trying to keep away from overloading and overcomplicating it, but here's a basic blog, an example. Google likes when you have a numbered list, dot points. Every 300 or 400 words you should have a title, so H2, H3, image, H4. Also on this page I've included the 13 things that every page should have, and it's very similar stuff. Have your title, have your H2, have your text, have your city. So there's a video here that explains. I'm not going to dive into that, but hopefully that explains to you how blogging, or in other words, creating supporting content for your website is actually super important, especially if your website is young, especially if the competitors are smashing lots of content on their sites. Otherwise, you just have to consider other avenues of getting traffic. Google ads, Facebook ads. If you have a Wix or a Weebly website, I don't recommend doing this at all. I recommend spending that time or money on a Facebook ad or a Google ad, because it's very unlikely that you'll climb the ranks. What else did I have here? Oh yeah, so minimum 2,500 words. I just explained this. Keyword in the H1 and the title and the meta URL. Yep, okay, I mentioned that as well. So that's the basics of what every blog or guide or piece of supporting content should have if you want your website to begin climbing the ranks, if you want Google to trust you. When they trust you, they send you traffic. When you get traffic, you get inquiries, you get new business. Everybody wins. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, book me in. Let me know what your website is. Let me know what your competitors are. Happy to make a bit of a strategy and tell you what you can do to climb the ranks and get more business. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Now I done grew up around some people living their life in bottles. Granddaddy had the golden